Welcome to the Wall to Wall podcast, brought to you by Wall Ed Tech, where your host, Jared and Carrie Wall's passion for technology and learning come together to bring you up-to-date information on what's going on in and out of the classroom. From the latest apps and best practices to current trends, this podcast is Wall to Wall Ed Tech.
Hi, and welcome back to Wall to Wall Podcast. Today is episode 7. We're going to talk about the differences between laptops and Chromebooks. I'm here with my co-host, Jared.
How are y'all doing today? And this is one of my favorite topics. I'm passionate about Chromebooks, so when we get to that section, I'll be happy to talk about that today.
Right, I am too. We've got some news and some notes. It's been a little bit. We've been off for a couple of weeks, and we are back in the groove of things.
We are. We have taken a couple of weeks of vacation time just to get everybody caught up with where we are. We do have quite a few 60 days of Google tips for educators to add to YouTube, so continue to follow those. You will see all 60 days before we get back to school in a couple of weeks. Trying to bring you as many tips for using Google as an educator as we can to make that an easy experience for you. Also, a little news about Carrie and I. For those of you who know us, one of our favorite technology departments is West Baton Rouge Parish. We have worked with Dr. Tammy Seneca and the people in West Baton Rouge Parish, and we happen to believe it is the leading educational technology department in the state of Louisiana. And some bigger news that Carrie and I are both going to be working in West Baton Rouge Parish again starting this school year. So we're excited to be back in a district that not only has a one-to-one initiative, but embraces it, teaches it, and wants their teachers to use those 21st century skills. So we look forward to being a part of that district and bringing what we know and then learning from those experts to help us to even grow in our own use of technology in the classroom.
Right. I'm super excited. Have a whole new position and everything, so I'm looking forward to that. But speaking of that, here we are. Anyone in our area or just in general South Louisiana, we have this week is our last week off before we start. We tend to start school much earlier than other districts, different areas, but we finish at the end of May. So this is our last week, so I hope that you, just like myself, have been seriously thinking about how you're going to do your classroom this year, changes that you've made, things that you as time goes by, you continuously reflect. Sometimes I do that by class periods, all the way to just in general, how do I want to change my classroom? And especially with starting at a new school this year, there's things that I'm going to change, and it's a chance to start over. Teaching's one of the few, if not only, I guess, but you don't get the chance to start over all the time very often. And here we are, and as teachers and educators, you get a brand new school year. And, it's just a chance to reevaluate and to reflect, and here we go again. So I hope that you've really been thinking through your upcoming school year and what you're going to change and things that you're going to improve on. And also I hope that, as the summer has been here, that you've continued on your journey of your own personal growth by researching and playing around with tech tools and listening to podcasts.
Yeah, I would suggest that anybody who hasn't, find at least 2 or 3 podcasts in your area of concern, whether it's a subject matter or educational technology or something you're passionate about. And when you're driving, when you're cooking, when you're cleaning, when you're just sitting around the house, be growing professionally through those podcasts. All right, so we have that's our news. We have some technology tools and trends to talk about for this episode. Ms. Wall?
Yeah, the first one that we have listed is PowToon. And yes, I've used PowToon in the past, like years ago, and just kind of got away from it. But I wanted you to talk about this because you did some really cool stuff with PowToons, and I was kind of jealous and very impressed. I was like, check this out. So I wanted you to talk about PowToon just a little bit.
Well, I was working on a technology video for the school I was at, kind of a parent-student resource for the new Chromebook rollout. And so I said, let me check on PowToon. I remember the first time I used PowToon, I wasn't overly impressed. It was basically some cartoon looking things that you could voice over. I was blown away when I went to PowToon this time. They have updated their tools, and it was a very professional looking experience. Still some limitations to PowToon. As a free account, you only get 3 minutes of recording time. It is going to have their watermark over your work, and you cannot download your video. You can publish it to YouTube, but you can't actually download the video to do any sort of editing for it before you publish it unless you pay for a plan. So there are limitations on PowToon, but the things that it does well, it has moving characters, so you might have a student or an adult looking image that can have different moods. It can point at things, it can smile, it can cry, and they can walk onto the screen. You can have a hand that writes out the text that you're putting on the screen. Everything is really neat. It's got a great editing interface that shows the duration of the slide, and you can put when you want things to enter and exit and when the transitions happen. So if you don't want to just record a video that's a static screencast of a PowerPoint where you just put your slides up, if you want those slides to be interactive as you record, PowToon is something for you to look at. I found it to be, while you may need a little more technical expertise to do the editing, if you have that kind of expertise, there's just an unlimited number of things you can do. Again, a free account is limited on time and has watermarks, but you can do a paid account that gives you access to more tools and more options. So check out PowToon if you get the chance. It
was really cool. They had really stepped it up from the last time I had used it, which was many years ago, maybe when it first came out, I'm not sure. But we definitely are fans of Chromebooks, and anytime you get a teacher who's newer to Google Docs, they're used to working in Microsoft where they get tons of different kinds of fonts, and teachers, and especially the younger the grade that they teach, they love fonts. I'm very much a business person, and I love the business education side of things, so it has to be professional. So I'm not all that crazy about all the different fonts. However, students are. And one of the things with Google Docs, the first things that most teachers ask for is, what about the fonts? I like the fonts. And so we found an extension, and it's called Extensis, and it allows you to add new fonts to a Google Doc.
Let me go in a little more depth here.
Go ahead.
This is an add-on, so don't go look for it in the Chrome store. It's not an app. When you're in your Google Doc, at the top on the toolbar where it says File, Edit, View, click on Add-ons in your Google Doc and then Manage your add-ons, and you want to add Extensis. It's Extensis, Extensis.
And you go through it and you pick all these different fonts, and they've got some really cool stuff. It's free of charge, and the only thing that I've kind of noticed, and this may be incorrect and I haven't played with it a whole lot because, like I said, I'm not crazy about all the fonts, but that once you do it, it's only for that doc. And so if you want it for another document, you have to go back and pick those fonts again.
But the good news is, if you use that font, it does show up on that document for anybody else who opens that font. So if you're sharing that document with your students or a teacher, they don't have to have the add-on to see the font. Once you use it, everyone who goes to that document will see that font. So it does work well. The only limitation, again, is when you start a new document, if you want that font, you got to go back to add-ons. You got to find that font again and activate it. But if you're looking for a cool way to spruce up your Google Docs, Extensis will let you do that.
Right. Another thing that we've been doing a lot of work in lately is Canva. And Canva is just mind-blowing at times, and they have the app for the phone. It's a website. You can set up your account using Google, and everything saves in Canva that you create, and it's a software program that you use to create graphics of all kinds. So you have images, you can attach text with it, you can change background colors, borders. There's so much you can do. And before, we've kind of played around with Canva, we had used Pixlr for these things and like an online Photoshop thing. But you can do so much of what you could do in Pixlr with Canva, and you've been creating some really cool stuff. And I'm very excited about this program and to get my students involved in Canva.
If to give you an idea of what Canva can be used for, check out Twitter. You'll notice on your Twitter stream that it used to be a lot of text, but lately everybody has an image attached to their Twitter. To their tweet when they tweet something out.
Right.
Graphics catch people's eyes. And so Canva has templates already set up that are the perfect size for a Twitter post. So you choose Twitter post, you pull in the images you want to show up on there, choose your colors, type what you want it to say, and then when you tweet that out, it's the perfect size already to tweet, and it shows up not only with the message you're sending out, but with a great graphic to go along with it that will catch people's attention and hopefully get you a little more, some more follows and more people actually interacting with what you've posted on Twitter.
Right. It has, like you said, everything is sized automatically, and you can choose all kinds of different templates. So there's like Facebook, website banners, different kinds of headers, all kinds of social media things, as well as like flyers and advertisements and posters. So, and when I see it, I kind of think about what we've done with posters in Adobe Spark with students before, but I'm definitely going to make the change, and I'm going to use more Canva this year. I'm just impressed with it. You can choose from pictures that they already have. You can upload your own. There's also tons of fonts and styles. And now some of these are paid, but the majority, I mean, everything you need is free.
Absolutely. So, you can use the free stuff and never pay for anything on there. I've done it, and it works fantastically. And for those of you who are out there going, are they saying Canva, Canvas? It's C-A-N-V-A, Canva. It is web-based app, so you can do it on a Chromebook. You can do it on your phone. You don't need to install anything. So it's perfect for those of you who are in a one-to-one Chromebook situation, which is the topic of our podcast here in a minute. So check Canva out, and people will be blown away. They'll think, oh my goodness, this person got a master's in graphic design overnight. No, you didn't. You just have a tool that really works for you.
Yes. The trend I wanted to talk about today is about bringing your own device. Now, I've worked in schools where it's optional to have a device, or a school provides the device. And so I really want to talk about cell phones. That's the real thing I want to talk about. You know, my first thought is I don't like cell phones in the classroom, so I'm glad when students aren't allowed to have them. However, you know, that was years ago, and now cell phones are everywhere. Everybody has one. Our students have them, not just cell phones, but there's smartphones. And there's lots of advantages to this as well. And so I just kind of wanted to touch on to take advantage of students having a smartphone and having the accessible computer in their pocket at all times. And, you know, there's tons of apps, countless apps that you can use in education and you can use in your classroom no matter what your content is. You know, I was looking today, in fact, about Padlet, and Canva that we were just talking about has an app, and students can put all this stuff on there. And, you know, like we said, we use images. Why not let the students take their selfie or take the pictures of what it is that they're learning about and being able to post it to a class website or into Google Classroom or, you know, whatever you have them do. But to take advantage of them having their cell phones and think of creative ways that they can incorporate something they love, of course, the phone, into demonstrating their knowledge for your content and whatever skill or concept they're trying to master.
I think this is we need to put a pin in this topic and maybe make it a podcast episode, because there's so much to talk about here, from what you can use a cell phone for. Should students be allowed to use a cell phone? What are the teachers' concerns with the smartphone in the classroom? There's lots to talk about. As a technology person, I like to err on the side of if it'll work, let's use it, and let's teach kids the appropriate way to use it. But I think it's a fantastic trend for those schools that aren't one-to-one. It puts a device in everybody's hand automatically, because just about everybody has a smartphone, and there are so many things you can do with it. Most most everything we use with Chromebooks has an app that works on the smartphone, and this could be a way to bridge that gap for one-to-one. So I'm with you, especially when there's times that the computers aren't ready to go. You can still use that technology in the classroom. It's a portable camera. It's an audio recorder. And the kids are used to typing on it with their text messages. So for many things, I think it's a great idea.
Right. All right, so let's get started with Chromebooks and laptops. You know, I'm going to say the first thing people see when they look at the laptop is with the Chromebook is that it looks just like a laptop. So let's get started with what are the differences between Chromebooks and laptops?
Absolutely. Chromebooks and laptops do look just alike. As a matter of fact, previous school district used Dell laptops. This year they're going to Dell Chromebooks, and other than the fact that one was 14-inch and the other one's 11-inch, you can't tell the difference when it's sitting there closed on a shelf or when it's open because it looks just like a laptop. Here's the biggest difference. Chromebooks are completely web-based. So a laptop, for you teachers out there who are like, why would I prefer a Chromebook over a laptop? Laptops have operating systems like Windows that have to be installed. They take up space. They eat up memory. They have to boot up. When those laptops get older, when you're on the second, third, fourth year of those devices, Windows can be really a pain. It might take 5 minutes or so for it to repair and boot up while you're sitting there trying to teach. Chromebooks don't have that problem. Chromebooks are basically, they do run an operating system. It's the Chrome operating system, but it's completely web-based. It starts in as little as 10 seconds. Your Chromebook, is up and running.
And that's from powered off to ready to go.
Right, powered off to
super
use
fast.
And what's fantastic about this is there's nothing to install. You don't have to install programs or software. You're not having to install Microsoft Office. Of course, you're losing some of the functionality, but what that's doing for you in the classroom is it's streamlining what that device does, which means it is going to boot up in 10 seconds. It means the apps are going to open automatically and work because students have not installed games and viruses and things like that. Chromebooks are going to be much more secure, they're going to be stable, and they're going to be fast. Now, of course, that is dependent on the Wi-Fi that your school has deployed. You need a good Wi-Fi network. So if you have Chromebooks and bad Wi-Fi, you're going to have a bad experience. But most schools know this and have in place what they need in order to make it happen. Now, what does a Chromebook do? It runs web applications. So if you can do it online without installing software, you can do it on a Chromebook. Everything these days is basically run online. So things like Google. If you need Google Drive, Google Docs, all of those Google for Education tools work online. You can use them on the internet, then you can use it on your Chromebook. You can use web apps like Schoology. You can use Google Classroom. You can use Nearpod. All of these tools that educators are familiar with and been using, they work as web applications and they work flawlessly on Chromebooks. So you're really not missing out from that aspect.
Right. And so we're used to downloading things and software programs such as Microsoft. It takes a mindset change. You have to be willing and ready to kind of change your mindset and to recognize that there's Google tools or online applications to substitute what you typically have installed on a computer.
I would say if you are in a district like the one we are moving from and to, and you're going to Chromebooks, as a teacher, you need to open your mind, embrace the idea that we live in a cloud-based society. All right, we have moved from I need a jump drive, I need a hard drive, to everything is pretty much stored in the cloud, from your new smartphone, which makes you have a cloud app that keeps all, you don't have to take out your SIM card and change it. Everything's stored in the cloud. I know everybody says, what's this magical cloud? Well, it's out there, and it's got all your information stored on it. So if your information and your files are stored online, it doesn't matter what device you're on. I can be on the desktop over here at my teacher desk, and I can access those files. Or I can go home with my Chromebook and sit on the back porch in front of my pool. I can sip coffee and access those same files from my cell phone, my tablet, or my Chromebook, and I can do the same thing. So it's really a mindset change from what are the limitations? There really aren't limitations if you embrace that cloud mindset. Now, if you're doing something specific, like if you are a graphic design teacher and you're teaching Adobe, well, yeah, you're going to need to install Adobe software. Chromebook's probably not for you. But how often is that the case for a teacher who's teaching English or math? You're usually not software specific. If you're the IBCA teacher and you need Microsoft Office for certifications, the Chromebook's not for you. But you probably have what you need installed on the desktops in your computer lab.
However, I will say as an IBCA teacher that yes, I have to teach Word and PowerPoint and Microsoft for certifications for my students to pass the class. However, there are online software programs that are used and that I've used in the past, and you get the full function of Microsoft in the actual online software application. So it does everything you need it to do. So even though my students are working in Microsoft, they're doing it through the application, so Microsoft doesn't have to be installed. So even with Chromebooks, they're able to do what I've asked them to do for assignments. So there's workarounds for all this.
Absolutely. Well, let's finish with this. Some of the best things about Chromebooks, they're lightweight. If you compare it to a laptop, it's going to be a lot lighter. So it's more portable. It's not going to weigh down the book sack. They don't break. If you don't have to re-image it, if it's not working, you just reset it and reboot, and it's ready to go. You don't have to wait for the operating system to update like Windows will do, and it'll say 15%, 20%, and your kid is halfway through class and they still don't have a computer to use. All of that happens when you turn it off and on. It just updates to the newest Chrome browser, and in literally seconds, you're up and ready to go. So there's not a whole lot of downside to this. Embrace it if you are a teacher.
They're super fast, which is the thing that I like the most.
There's cool shortcuts on the keyboard and on the trackpad for everything. Look up those resources.
A really good battery life as well.
Absolutely.
So that's another thing. And just to wrap it up on this is that for our personal use, we have Chromebooks. That's what we have purchased, and that's what Jared and I both use. Now
They're cheap, teachers. You can get you one for home use for less than $200.
Yes.
And it'll do everything you need it to do. So if you're looking for a personal device for you, we love Chromebooks. We were just made aware at a recent training that not only are there Chromebooks, there's Chrome boxes that are cheap as well that you can plug into a monitor you already have.
Or Chromebase, right?
Chromebase.
Is it Chromebase or one or the other, right?
And then there's also a all-in-one Chrome unit that looks just like an all-in-one computer, but it runs off Google Chrome, which is a lot cheaper than an all-in-one you might buy that has Windows running on it. So we suggest looking into Chrome. If you're an educator, it's going to save you money, and it's going to allow you to get right on those cloud drives your school's having you store information on. There is really no downside to the Chromebook.
This is 21st century skills right here for you and your students.
Well, we're glad you joined us today for our 7th episode of Wall to Wall Podcast, and we look forward to coming back to you next week with episode 8. Until then, this is Jared
and Carrie,
and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Wall to Wall Podcast. You can get all of our podcasts by subscribing to Wall to Wall Podcast on iTunes. For more resources, visit walledtech.com. You can follow us on Twitter or find us on Facebook. Just search for Wall Ed Tech. If you have questions, comments, or things you want us to talk about, visit Wall Ed Tech and send us an email, tweet, or message us on Facebook. We look forward to hearing from you.